Cool.
Hi, this is Frid from The Joy of Syntax. And hang on, now I want to be in gallery view. From The Joy of Syntax and English in Color with my lovely friend Jacqui Howe from Springwood Sanctuary, a healing center for horses, donkeys, and humans. And dogs as well, right?
Yep.
I always say those three creatures, but I guess if any creature that finds his or her way to you.
And all sorts of wild animals as well at the sanctuary. Yes.
Yes. And
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for doing this again. It's great. Nice to be here.
my pleasure. My husband just popped in and saw whether Rudy needs some help, but Rudy is sound asleep. Well, today we wanted to talk about animal communication in more detail. Last time you led us through a wonderful self-healing and forgiveness ceremony, and the time before that we talked about, well, how do you live and accompany aging beings that might transition anytime? How do you do a good job with that? And yeah, today there are so many things to talk about, as always. And well, where do we start? Let's cover the topics. So I would love to hear about how you found your way to animal communication, what your understanding is of animal communication, because sometimes I can't escape the impression that the term is used very well, maybe very liberally, and I would really like to hear what you have to say about that. I'd love to hear a particular story. Last time you shared this moving story of how you did the Ho'oponopono with Misty, or near Misty, and had this wonderful reaction from her. And I'm wondering whether you would share a similar story or some story from your life where animal communication had an amazing effect. Yeah, and then we wanted to share a little bit of a film clip where we can see
We also were going to talk about, sorry to interrupt you, are we also going to talk about respect to, just using all of those different things, awarenesses with mindfulness and animal communication and everything, and how to have a more equal relationship with our animal friends who live with us. Yeah.
Yes, actually, I so took that for granted that I forgot to mention it, but it needs mentioning. I mentioned it in the short description when I announced this post, but yes, it's we're both vegan. I think it's okay to share that that bit of info. And when we became vegan, I think we both had this revelation that we weren't on an equal footing with other beings, and that we very much wanted to be, and that the dependence in our care that we needed to change the relationship, really, or make more of an effort to be on on a very equal footing, on a very democratic footing. And that's not so easy to do when you've brought these dependents into your life under a very different paradigm, really.
Yeah, and just the way that we're brought up to think about animals in our care, and the language that we use
Oh,
around that is
oh my God. Yeah.
so yeah, I just wanted to sort of cover that as well, really.
Yeah.
But to start with, what I'd like to do is just everybody who's either listening to this now or listening to this as it's being, recorded later, just to enjoy arriving at the space here with us, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. And
I'm here.
yeah. Okay, and just to take a few breaths and to have a little bit of a mindfulness session. And while we're taking some breaths and enjoying the chair supporting us underneath us and feeling the floor underneath our feet, Frid's going to play a little 4-minute film of it's a short snippets of a beautiful documentary that's being made about Springwood Sanctuary and our journey from moving and where we are now. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you and share the beautiful space that the animals in our care have got to enjoy, and just hope that you can just enjoy that while you're just enjoying the breath coming in and out of your body, and just being very aware of your senses and right here in this moment. Okay, and
That's
allowing that chattering.
Yes, that's lovely. And I'm going to also, if you give me permission, post this video underneath in the internet, right? Yes, that would be lovely.
Thank you.
Okay, so ready to be guided by you, and I'm going to press play. I turned it up as much as I could. Can't you hear it?
Nice deep breath in and out of your body.
Oh, wow. That was lovely.
So thank you for sharing that. It was a little bit glitchy. It's better in just watching it on the website. Actually, we've got if we put a link to the website, you can enjoy that later. But just just taking some nice deep breaths and just watching some animals in as much freedom as we can give them. They're our beautiful animal family that live with us. They've all been rescued from various different awful situations in their past, but now have, thankfully, found a lot of trust and peacefulness. So it's a real privilege to
Goodness me,
share that with them.
Thing happened. Okay. Somehow, I don't know how it is for you, but ever since I showed the video, we are you are above me instead of next to me, but I don't know how to.
It looks the same. It looks the same to me.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I guess I could experiment with this. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Something. We'll see how it is. Anyway, so
so that kind of leads us nicely on, really, with just starting with that very simple, just breathing exercises. It's really the foundation of everything that I do with animal communication and animal healing, and just being with animals, whether that's a horse or a donkey or a cat or a dog, or a little vole or a mouse, or whatever creature it is. They are incredibly perceptive at picking up on our feelings. So the more peaceful we get, the more they can pick up on that peacefulness and join us in that lovely bubble of peacefulness. So I try and intersperse my day with as much little mindful sort of moments as possible, and it does make a huge difference to them. So we were talking a little bit before we came on air about sharing animal communication.
Yes, I'd love that. And you are finding, how did you find animal communication? What is it to you? How does it manifest in your life? How would you describe it? How, sharing maybe some stories that would highlight how why it's beneficial, why it helps us to have a deeper relationship. I mean, obviously, if we can communicate, but I mean, I'm just very curious to hear exactly, how it makes a difference in your life and how we can learn from you so that it may make a difference in our life.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. So one of the things that led me to want to learn animal communication, and I guess it's probably true of most people who kind of get interested in it, is to be able to understand what our animals are thinking. And that's generally the sort of perception of what animal communication is. But on my journey with practicing it and with being with lots of different other animals, I've realized that actually one of the big things with, obviously, communication and relationship is a two-way thing. And one of the big things that we kind of tend to overlook generally with animal communication when it's taught and practiced is that actually we can communicate our feelings to our animal friends and family members or other animals that we meet, rescue. And actually animals are a lot better at picking up on our feelings than we are about picking up on theirs. So actually, I think it's a nicer way to start the sort of conversation and the learning, to recognize that if we get ourselves still enough and peaceful enough and in this lovely bubble of peace that we were talking about, we're bringing our thinking down. That sort of monkey mind, that overthinking stuff that we got in on our heads pretty much all the time. You know, what have we just done? What are we about to do? And actually just pressing pause and being really aware of everything around us right in this very moment, right in this absolute moment now. Mm-hmm. So that breath coming into your body, being aware of that as it just comes into around your nostrils, and how that's expanding your chest or your belly or where it's going. The sound with your speaking of your voice vibrating in your throat, just really bringing it down to those small things. If you're concentrating on all of those and really being aware and paying attention, it's very difficult to have mind chatter going on. And the more you do it, the more your brain, there's a lot of brain science around this and studies that show that our brains actually build synapses, and our brain gets rewired. So if we do it and it only takes about 3 weeks for your brain to get completely rewired in this way of thinking. So I remember it being a struggle when I started because it was something new, and I sort of had to make time to practice. But once you've done that and it becomes a habit, then it becomes something that's really enjoyable, lovely, enjoyable space to drop into, and a really good way to actually kind of help ourselves with anxiety and stress, as well as helping the animals around us. And I think if we're animal people, which I guess everybody who's tuning into this is, to do it, to learn it and to practice it for our animals, to be able to communicate better with our animals, to have them understand us, to have them feel more relaxed and peaceful around us and have a better trusting relationship is a really good incentive to do it. So that's a nice reason to do that. So I'm just going to go back to, because I was reminded by a friend of mine yesterday when I chatted to her about, she was watching something online and it was meant to be about a sort of meditation practice, and she said, oh, the guy just spent sort of 45 minutes talking before he got into anything, and I just had to turn off in the end. And so that's why I really wanted to open with that sort of breathing, and actually just to intersperse our chat with just some nice time to actually just give to yourself. And so just bringing it back again to just having a couple of minutes of just being very aware of the chair that's supporting you here. And while you're really aware of that your seat underneath you, if you've got a chair back that's supporting the back of your back and back of your body rather, and are you resting your hands in your lap? Can you feel that feeling of one hand on top of another? How does that feel? Are your hands warm? Are they cold? Are they tingly? Just really putting your attention on your hands. Are your legs crossed, or are they on the floor? Or are they up on the chair? Just being aware of your feet and how they feel. Giving each little one of your toes a wiggle. And just being aware of your toes. Lifting your heels up and down. Maybe doing a little circle with your ankles. Being aware of how that feels. Is there stiffness, or is that easy to do? Is there anywhere in your body that's holding a little bit of tension? You don't need to do anything about it except to just be aware. And while you're sitting, if you shift your seat slightly, does that make you feel more comfortable while you're really putting your attention on how you're sitting? And then just taking a nice deep breath in and having a stretch out. And yeah. Okay, so it's just nice to intersperse our day with moments like that, and it doesn't even need to be that long actually. So I'll, as we're talking, just bring us back to another one of our senses, and just so it can show you how you can just, dot them throughout your day. And just bringing your awareness right back to this moment. So when we brought our stillness down, our mind chatter down into this lovely still space, when we've done all of those things, actually just putting your attention on your animal friend that's with you, and in that lovely peaceful still space that you've created, talking to them about how you feel. So if there's a particular something that you want to share, perhaps it's that you need to, I'm just thinking of a good example that's just easy to explain. Perhaps it's that you need to give them a brush. Okay, and perhaps in the past that's been quite stressful, or you need to clip their claws or clean their eyes or something, and instead of it being a battle and it being a stress and you having to hold them and them wanting to wriggle away and go and do something else, actually just saying, what I'd really love to do, and just feel this in your body, just picture it and really just feel a lovely peaceful way of doing it, and envisage it being really peaceful. What I want to do is help you get all those little tangles out from behind your ears and get this nice, all of this stuff out of your eyes, so it's all nice and it feels lovely and comfortable. And if there's anything in your ears, and I just want to make you feel really comfortable and just make you feel like, yeah, you can just go and have a good charge around and let the wind get into your coat, and it all be, a good feeling. And if there are any little knots of muscles or whatever, I just want to give them a little rub and some warmth and just make that feel better for you. And if your claws are long and they're getting caught in, the carpet or whatever, or they're not very comfortable, just to take the ends off those so it makes it feel good. Explain why you're going to be doing something. Just take the time to really tune in and explain to them what you're going to be doing. I think you'll be really surprised actually, because all of the feedback from everybody that I suggest this to is amazing, how much it does make a difference. They pick up on what we're talking about, although they can't understand the words necessarily. They pick up on that energy that we're bringing up, and that, we've talked about this before, but actually just to kind of, I think it's kind of useful to repeat these things sometimes because it's easy to forget. So they really pick up on that energy. So just really verbalizing it and talking to them about what you're going to do and why you're going to do it. So for example, with the herd, when if I've got Mark coming out to do trim their feet, I'll spend some time with them saying, Mark's coming. He's coming to trim your feet, and it's going to feel really nice. Everything's going to be balanced again. Some of them have got a bit long, and it puts the rest of their joints out of balance. It's going to feel lovely. You're going to be really balanced. And I just picture their whole body being in balance, and this is going to be all lovely and peaceful. And it's really, really worked. We've, when they've come to us in the beginning, they've all been difficult to trim their feet because they've had bad past experiences of people wanting to control them and do it quickly because don't want to keep the foot trimmer or the farrier waiting and everything, and just actually just spending some time and allowing them to get their balance and stuff like that. So just kind of, yeah, there's a little couple of things that we can do for dogs and for horses, and for both and for cats, and well, for all of the animals that are in our care. Actually, when we're grooming, brushing, doing any kind of foot care or whatever, trying to do that at liberty.
Mm-hmm.
So letting them walk away if they want to. It'll make a massive difference, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And letting them choose to join. And if they've had enough, just to go, okay, that's enough for today. And that'll make a massive difference for the next time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all about kind of trying to not, train and not do anything in a real controlling way, just really working with them and allowing them to have as much autonomy over their bodies as possible.
Yes.
And I suppose that awareness came from just, from, as you said, the whole being vegan and starting to question how, what part they should play in our lives, and should we have animals at all in our lives, should we have pets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about what your feeling is, and how did you kind of justify that, or how did you come to a feeling about that, or how did that make you feel when you started thinking about that, Frid?
Well, Rudolph, who is with me still, is my fourth darling, and he really chose to come to me. So I didn't look for him. So I was in Portugal. I didn't want to get a dog, and I met him, and he told me in clear terms, I really want to go home with you. There was no question. He hates being in a car. He hated being in a plane, and he just came along because he wanted to come along. So with him, it was easy. So I got him, and he moved in with us in 2006. And I became vegan as late as March 2011. So that was quite a bit later. And so I didn't feel bad about Rudolph, because actually with him, I had given him as much liberty as I could. I hadn't tried to train him. I had only leashed him up when I had to because of conventions, in the woods or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We had a big yard at that time. And the only change for him was that I switched him to a vegan diet a year later as well, because I felt that he has a very kind heart. And for him to catch a mouse in the woods is one thing, but for him to be given this dog food where all these animals had been tortured, I felt wasn't actually in alignment with him, with his nature. And I told him I had this awakening that he too could eat a vegan diet. I said, if you catch a mouse in the garden, that's between you and nature. But if what I give you is my responsibility. So I just bought this whole array of vegan food, and he chose. And he said, this is yucky, this is okay, and these two are yummy.
Good. Nice.
Very interesting.
Nice.
I did feel guilty about the first and the third dog. The second dog was also I also saved him. I was going to get him from a breeder, but when I got there, this wasn't a breeder but an abusive situation, and they opened the cage, and this dog just rushed at me and said, oh, thank God you're saving me. And then we were very close as well. Yeah, so I basically had 2 rescues and two dogs from breeders, and I wouldn't ever get a dog from a breeder again. I don't believe in breeding animals. I certainly believe in giving them a good home when they need one. Yeah. If you can manage it, if you have and I think it's I've been accused of treating them like babies. There is that, but I don't think it doesn't feel disrespectful to me. To me, he is a mixture of wise companion, helpmate, and child. It's this and best friend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that there aren't difficult situations, but relationships are tricky, aren't they? And although it's the easiest, I don't know whether it's because he can't argue as loudly, but I think it's because we're both pretty much on one wavelength.
Yeah. Nice. Oh, that's nice. Thank you for sharing that. Nice story.
Thank you. And of course, I wish, if I could do it over, I would try to move somewhere where he could have more space. You have a lovely place, and that would be more ideal for him. And the bad thing is, and I, when I brought him into my life, we lived close to the woods and we had a big yard, and then catastrophe hit and we had to move into the city. But I don't know whether I said that before. When the moving van came, he looked at the things being carried outside and he jumped into the van. And he never jumped into cars on his own. So pretty clear message.
Yeah.
I see what's happening and I'm coming.
Yeah, you're not leaving me behind.
Yeah. So I do feel that if he had to choose, he'd rather live in the city with me than in some kind of field without me. Yeah. Yeah, it's not ideal, but it's what it is. And I can, it's sometimes it's best to not, have unavailing regrets and just think, what can I do now to make the best of the situation?
Yeah, indeed. And I think, I think there's a big need for rescuing animals. If we can give them, meet their needs, give them a respectful home.
Yes.
I think we do owe it to them to really question what their needs are, and not just be led by what a rescue centre or an online forum or other people say is okay, and just to really question that. And my way of really helping myself to do that is to get back to real stillness again and tapping into our kind hearts, our intuitive knowing, and looking at your animal friend that you have with you and going, okay, so what are your needs, and am I actually meeting them? And really questioning it from that side of things. Am I using you to meet my needs? Am I am I using you for work or entertainment? And what can I do about that? How can I shift that? How can I make your life more fun, more enjoyable, give you more enrichment, give you less control? I think we tend to I know I used to really micromanage animals, and I'm really aware that this is quite a common thing. And I'm really aware that I did used to do this a lot too, is that if we don't have control in our lives in any way, if we're in a not a very great kind of, if we're in a controlling relationship, whether that's with parents or a partner, or in a very controlling work relationship, quite often we will exert a lot of control over the animals in our life to make us feel better and give us that sense of we've got some sort of control, but totally subconsciously, just not being aware of that. I'm not saying that anybody would do that in any kind of conscious way.
Mm-hmm.
But I started thinking about this after I shifted my kind of my way I was with animals, and shifted the sort of the balance out of not owning them, not training them, not controlling them. And then started looking at the ways that people behaved around their animals, and if you just having that awareness, it just made me really realize that dynamic does happen so often. So it's one of those little sort of sow that seed, and just to be aware of that actually, if you're in a very controlling situation yourself, then how much does that need to control or train or whatever, that animal in your life kind of just meet those needs for you, that you're in some sort of control. And I see that a lot in the horse world, especially with women and horses, and how actually having a massive, great, very powerful horse, and being able to control them really fulfills a need in them.
Wow.
So I think that's one big kind of big way that horses are really not respected.
I felt, actually, if I may say that, that in my life, both with my boys, my human boys, and my dogs, I don't think that I tried to control them, but I, in retrospect, wish I had been stronger defending them against society, or being that I felt, oh, if if my dog or my boys do this or that, my boys were wild. They're lovely and wonderful, but they were real boys, and there's not enough outlet for their energy in a normal city life or a normal school life. And then if you don't give them an opportunity to really creatively use their energy, they'll use it destructively. And I felt very challenged by that. Also by Rudolph. Rudolph really wanted to chase bunnies. And, so then sometimes I leashed him up because he could have been shot. And I didn't know how, I talked to him and I said, you can run this far, but not further. But I wasn't very good at animal communication. I had never heard about animal communication. I didn't think I could do that. Really, people always said, "Why do you talk to your dog?" My kids said, "You're talking to a dog." Who are you talking to? Are you talking to Ruth again?
Yeah, I know.
So I had this habit of doing that, but I didn't really think that I could
trust in it working.
Yes. Yeah. I just had this instinct of doing it, and so I felt that I didn't want to control them, but I felt a lot of pressure from society to not let my 3 boys run wild, and I didn't know how to contain them in such a way that their liberty wasn't constricted and I didn't get into trouble.
Yep. It's getting that balance again, isn't it? It's finding the balance. Yeah.
And I still don't have an answer to that question. How do you, if you don't, and I didn't want to use traditional training methods, and Rudolph was a hunter. When I got him the first 6 months, I didn't have to leash him up, and he wouldn't leave my side. And then you could really see him beginning to see, she'll never leave me. I can trust her. And then I know my way around. I'll always find my home. And then he started, experimenting, and just the areas he explored became bigger and bigger. And then he just started chasing bunnies a little bit, and then a lot. And then it was like when he was at home or we just went for a walk, he was like a mommy's boy. Oh, I love you and I'm with you and I'll never leave you. And then this bunny would pop up and he would just zoom, be gone. And then he would come back and be, hi, I'm here and I know you're happy to see me. And it was dangerous in some ways,
Yeah, so I think There are some things that we need to help them with in a respectful training way, without punishment, and just for their own safety. And I think those things are probably wait, come, and leave. I questioned all of this when Ollie, our little rescue friend, came to live with us. He's a cross between a Yorkshire Terrier and a long-haired miniature Dachshund.
Oh.
So he's got all sorts of Terrier and Dachshund sort of traits which are very characterful. I didn't want to control him by any sort of training at all. I'd done a lot of competitive obedience and competitive agility and all sorts of different stuff with different dogs in my life, and at the time really enjoyed doing all of those things. But actually, then I started questioning what place that was in an equal relationship, and why would I need to even teach him to sit or to lie down? It just was like, well, if I'm teaching him, making him sit, so he's feeling like he's getting really conditioned into he has to sit when I, give him that command or lie down, he might not actually be feeling very comfortable about doing that.
Yeah.
But and how would it be if somebody came up to me and went, okay, sit before I give you a treat, and
I've come to hate that so much.
Starting to question all of that, and then go, okay, so but what would actually, if he's off lead and having a lovely free time and he takes off and there's a road, I do need to actually help him to understand what wait is. And if he's about to pick up something with there are awful stories in this country, I don't know whether Germany's the same, with people leaving poisoned sausages around in woods and stuff like that. So actually, I see him about to pick up something, when he's out, to know to leave and what leave is, because just for his own safety and his own well-being, and then to come with enthusiasm and enjoyment, and generally those things are done with fun, and ways of, and again going back to using the communication, but also just trying to make it as fun as possible, but just really kind of questioning all of those different kind of aspects. We were talking about, we sort of touched on language actually, and then I might have sort of sown a sort of seed for somebody and thought, oh, what do they mean? So just it's the language that we use with animals. I'm sure you'll agree with this. Conventionally, it's like it's a form of slavery. We are their owner.
I totally agree.
And we buy them and we sell them and we can own them, and how long have you had that dog for? And
are you going to replace it when it's gone, when it's done?
What do you use your horse for? And are they in work? And
yes,
all of those words that we just use. And I had to have a vet out for one of our horses the other day, and he said, so are they in work? And they're not being used then, so to learn. And I just thought, it's so commonplace in people's language. Are you the owner? And all of that. It's just like, so when I started becoming aware of that, and owner used to really jar on me, I started using the term guardian.
Yes.
And that to me is just a normal, and to start with it felt a bit like, this is a bit weird. It's a bit like talking to animals. People are going to think you're funny or weird, and if somebody says, do you own them? I'm like, no, I'm their guardian, and I'm being, that's just, being pedantic or semantics and whatever. But actually, words are back to, you know, actually there's a lot of resonance, isn't there, with what you do, and
Yes,
you know,
language is powerful. And it's so
yeah,
interesting to me how sometimes language is so ineffective because it's the energy underneath the language, and how simultaneously it is so incredibly powerful. And I
yeah.
actually want to make a blog post and a video about this. Can I give you one example? You know, there are three types of verbs. These verbs where we just say, oh, he slept, you know, where the verb is enough to be the predicate. And then I love you, we need an object. And then there's this verb to be. Uh, he is asleep, he is nice, he's my friend, he's my dog. And those are the three types of verbs there are, these so-called intransitive verbs that can on their own constitute a sentence with the subject, and then these transitive verbs that need an object, and then these so-called copular or link verbs that link the subject and what I'm saying about the subject. And then there are some sub-patterns. And then, you know, there are different tenses, like the present tense, like and we use the present tense as well as these copular verbs to make these statements that sound like objective truths, like he is my dog. You know, when I say this is true, then it sounds like a fact, instead of saying I believe that, or right now it seems to me that this is like that. It's such a different way of speaking. And we are all seduced by the English and the German language. The two languages are exactly the same in that regard. We are seduced by the culture and the grammar itself and the lexicon to make these statements where we distance ourselves from the perception or opinion we have, and where we present something as an objective truth that is just a very personal, transitory perception. And it's extremely powerful. So if we learn to say, well, you know, I'm his guardian, is, you know, like that's better, you know, but like how about like moved in with me? He moved in with me in 2006 or we met in 2006 and we decided to move in together, you know. And it seems silly, but it has it sounds different.
And it's what it should be.
Yes, and we are, you know, tradition is so strong, habit is so strong. I know so much about language, and I keep slipping back into the old paradigm. And in that connection, you know, Marshall Rosenberg, who taught, you know, nonviolent communication, he helped me with that a great deal, and then my linguistic training helped me further along with that. But he said that, you know, reward and punishment are really part of the same system. And I was going to ask, when you said, well, we need to help them understand a few things, how do you help them understand that? Do you use treats, seeing that that's basically the same system as reward and, you know, as punishment?
It's a really difficult one. It's a really difficult one.
I know.
So what I use for the horses when I'm trying to explain something to them and get them used to something that they've not been used to before, is being really peaceful. This peacefulness. And just really immersing, and they're incredibly sensitive and incredibly perceptive. So it's an easier thing for me to achieve with horses than it is with dogs. Sure. And I wonder whether that's because they're living more true to their true nature, the way that they're being kept in a herd and stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to think back to when Ollie came to live with me. I was at the very start of this journey. Missy and Ollie came into my life at the same time in 2012. and they both taught me so much on this whole journey, and I'm just trying to think back to when I was sort of trying to teach them the sort of leave and wait, or teach him that. It's a bit fuzzy, actually. I need to give that some thought, because I can't think how I did that. I know I was very aware of how I was doing it, and it probably was with treats, and it probably, that whole positive reinforcement, which, there's as you say, it's, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly used treats. I've certainly used them. I never believed in punishment, except that three times Rudolph really growled at us. It's over a bone, anyway, and he's a big shepherd, and so one time he growled at me and twice at my kids, and I told him, no, you can't threaten me. I'm not having that. And I really got cross with him 3 times in my life, and he said okay, and he never growled at us again. And I think, looking back, I don't feel guilty about that. I think he came from, he was half wild, and I said, you could really hurt us, and I feel scared when you growl at me like that. We can play growl, but not like that. And then I knew I could also trust him with the kids after that. I never expected him to growl at me like that. And so anyway, but otherwise I didn't really, he was already an adult. I once took him to a dog training school, and she didn't want to work with punishment. She very much worked with treats. And I used treats, but not as a reward. When we moved into the city, he had to be leashed up way more. And he started barking at every dog. And then I would actually give him treats, but not while he was barking. I would actually feed him, and I would feed the other dog as a sign, look, everything is okay. We can be friends and we can eat together. And then people would say, you are reinforcing bad behavior. And I said, no, I think food calms me down. And so I'm trying that with him. And so somehow my idea was that if he sees that I'm giving this dog food, and I'm giving it to him, and we're just having a good old chat and we can be friends, then he can associate this, like the cannibals who couldn't eat the other person if once they had a meal with them. And it worked really well. He stopped barking at other dogs.
Excellent.
So, I don't know, how proper vegans view that, and it was, I don't know, but it worked for me. Yeah, so I did use treats, but not as a carrot stick thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how else to do it. So unless I learned from you to really, truly, energetically communicate.
Well, I think that is the answer, really, to get to, but yeah, I think it is the answer to really kind of to communicate what, and a lot of that is in trusting yourself that you can do it. So starting off with small things, and then really building up. So yeah.
So nowadays you don't use treats anymore. You simply hand out treats to celebrate life, not to connect.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we have treats, but they're for fun. They're just like for
celebrating life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just looking to make sure, because I wrote all sorts of notes because I knew that I'd forget all sorts of things. So just as far as language is concerned,
so basically, if I may say that, the language helps us to get into the right energy, right? So
exactly right. Yeah, exactly. And it's similar. That's exactly right. And it's similar to and I'm going to kind of keep going back to horses as well. And so a lot of people don't have horses in their lives, but actually, there are people that that do, and it's in the same way as the language of ownership and using them and stuff is really important. So is your intention just by going through that field gate.
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing, I always say, everybody who comes to the sanctuary, I always say, right, okay, so coming in to their land, so please just have that awareness that you are now stepping into their territory.
Or their guest.
Yeah, and just to be aware of how they are and just say thank you for, letting me come into your space. It's just that shift in cognitive awareness of it. This is their space. It's not your field, your horse. You've got a head collar in your hand. You can go up to that horse, put that head collar on, and take them out, and then put a great big gag of metal in their mouth and sit on their backs and take them for a ride, or take them out of their herd setting where they're quite relaxed and happy. And we can do anything we want because they are ours, and that's the least that they could give us because we're looking after them so well. And just being aware that it's just having that whole respect for them as the beautiful beings that they are. And I don't think that we can ever have a totally equal relationship with the animals in our lives. Actually, I think even having the sanctuary set up that we have, so a little bit of it on the film, giving them as much freedom as I can, giving them stables and shelters that they can choose to come in and out of, so we're not shutting them in anywhere. I don't take them out of the field, so I don't split them up from their herd. We certainly don't ride them or do any kind of equine therapy or any sort of use at all with them. But they are still, and for Ollie living with us and Rudolph living with you as very much part of the family, and being, being as much an equal being in our lives as we can. They're still reliant on us to feed.
They are. They're dependent on us, and we are always in danger of slipping back into the old paradigm, and the people around us are, and that has an influence on us and on them and on the energy in the house.
And people just coming up to them and just giving them a stroke, or people find that really difficult to get. Actually, I had somebody who came and visited the sanctuary the other day, and I could tell it was really difficult for them. They kept on saying, can I go and stroke this one? And I said, well, they're actually in just a really beautiful sleepy state, and if you were sort of dozing and sleeping, you wouldn't really want somebody coming up to you and giving you a little, it's like when we did our bit of animal communication and mindfulness a couple of weeks ago, and I said, just finishing it with just being aware that you don't want to go up and say, oh, that was really lovely, wasn't it? And because if you're in a meditative state, you certainly don't want somebody coming and, touching you, because as much as we think intimacy is very, touch is very intimate, actually that soul connection and stillness and deep peace is way more intimate, and it can break that beautiful connection and intimacy by touching.
Yes, and I can still make that mistake. Like, Rudolph was asleep in the front yard today, and I was looking at him, and I just thought, oh my God, the poor guy has become so thin. And I just touched his belly, because there was this discrepancy between his belly and his hip and waist, his waistline. And I just thought, is this? I can see his rib cage, but is this bloated? And I just touched him, and I didn't ask him, and I didn't, I woke him up, and then he moved away. He actually didn't appreciate it at that time. I said, sorry, I just, I was preoccupied with how thin he was, and then woke him up.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting that we feel that we can just slip back into it, and we feel that it's just okay to. Missy has been a really good teacher in that she could not bear to be touched. And there's a short film of 1 minute film of of Missy that I've got on. I'll share you the link, because the sound wasn't coming out terribly well, but just explaining her sort of like how, when she first came to us, she could not bear to be touched. She was angry, she was aggressive, she was really difficult to handle in any kind of conventional way, which is my beginning of my journey on actually I've got this huge great ex-racehorse thoroughbred, spending a lot of time on her two hind legs because she all lashing out or whatever. And all of my past horse training was, if you don't control them, then they will take advantage and they will control you. And that was just drummed into me, and I just thought, well, this just is not working. There's no way I can control this animal, and I don't want to control her. I want to have a trusting relationship. But she's just angry, and what happens if I do just start to listen and start to just give her those choices and say, okay, so you don't want to go here or do this or have this done to you or whatever, so okay, I hear you. And it was like this beautiful light bulb switch going on in her brain of like suddenly going, wow, you're listening to me, I don't need to shout anymore. And it's happened with almost every single animal that has come to the sanctuary, and every horse and donkey that's come to the sanctuary has been in a similar sort of mindset of just very angry, because people have had complete control over their bodies and done what they want to, and they've got to the stage where they just had enough of it. So to just suddenly start, even things like I say even things, it's quite a big thing, but when you're putting a head collar on, onto them, and it's the same as putting a harness on a dog as well, instead of just kind of going right over your nose and actually just holding the loop for the loop of the material for them to put their nose in, and if they just slightly just being very, very getting yourself nice and still, so you're really aware of their body language, their eyes, whether they're suddenly get a bit wary or they're breathing or whatever, and just offering that. And if they either turn away completely, or even if they just very slightly turn away, don't follow them with that and go, just actually taking that as a no, as a very subtle no, and just taking a little bit of a step back. That's such a beautiful thing to do, because actually what it does is go, I hear you. So just, you're offering that head collar or that halter, and if they turn and just go, I don't think, before you pursue and then they go, no, you're not listening to me, I'm going off, or growl or whatever, or go to pin their ears back if they're a horse, whatever. Just as soon as you see that slight hesitation or I don't know, I want to have a free choice, you take a step back and go, that's okay, I'm listening to you. I don't know when. I'm always sort of say 9 times out of 10 they will change their mind, but they always change their mind whenever this has happened to me, because they know that they've got the choice. And if my intention is that, and which it always is, because I don't use them in any way, my intention is we're doing this, and I will always say I'm going to put a head collar on you so that we can go and do this and that or the other, whatever the reason is for it. If my intention is in line with what they want anyway, and they know that they have that choice, then they will turn their head back and put their head into that head collar.
Wow.
And that's really lovely, and just that's that is a choice thing, and it takes quite a while for them to get to that stage, if they haven't got to the very angry stage, if they're just in their normal shut down conditioned acceptance of humans are going to be controlling me, and it's actually safer for me to go along with that, which a lot of animals are in that sort of mindset, to allow them their own voice, and to start just allowing them some sort of free choice, or a lot of free choice, but just until they get it. But once they start being able to choose like that, it is really lovely. I don't put head collars on very very rarely put head collars on the herd, but when I do, it's always a reward is lots of peacefulness. So the head collar equals really just being peaceful. And when I started working with Missy with mindfulness, she'd have a head collar on and then she'd just literally just fall asleep. So trying to kind of lead her anywhere was just impossible, because head collar just meant head down and just close your eyes and just go into which was really lovely. It's like, okay, we now need to kind of maybe if we want to go somewhere. And at that stage I didn't have the beautiful place I've got now, so I was taking them for a wander down the road to go and have enrichment of different wild plants and herbs and stuff to go and graze. It was then getting her to sort of realize that we didn't just fall asleep when we had this. So
how did you do that then? How did you then put that on a half hour in advance so that she would wake up again, or do you wake her up, or what do you
so then it's letting her have that peacefulness and getting myself really still as well, not kind of just letting go of that expectation. I think is a huge thing actually, as far as any kind of communication and anything that you want to do. If you actually letting go of that expectation that it's going to happen. So but setting an intention. So I would think then beforehand, before I even got the head collar out or gone into the field, right, what I'd like to do is go for a walk down the road with both. I'd never take her out on her own, and at the time just had 2 horses living with me. So we would go, David and I would take them both out together for a walk, and so been really nice to go for a walk, really visualize the walk, and so just communicating that as much as possible by visualization. Hi Rudolph.
Someone woke up.
Is he doing okay?
Yep, he is.
Good.
Sorry, he just woke up. I want to go outside. We'll see. We can talk to Daddy and see whether Daddy wants to pick him up. Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's okay. He's more important.
Yeah, hang on. We'll see. Oh, Daddy is not online, so no use calling him, huh? I will see. Okay, he wants a bit of a rub. I'll listen again and we'll see. Okay, there he is.
I can go into doing some mindfulness and an animal communication exercise if you need to take him out.
I think that will be a very good idea.
Right, let's do that then.
I'm sorry I interrupted what you were saying. Do you want to, because he's looking at that, if you just want to finish the sentence and then move on and do
just visualizing. What I was saying was visualizing the walk. Then going into her area, offering her head collar, putting that on. It would always symbolize going to sleep, having a lovely sleep, and then visualizing. So not rushing it, just giving it, and then visualizing. Right, if we take a few steps towards the gate, we could go and explore and have some really nice, and just visualize all of those lovely cow parsleys and cleavers and all of those things, and getting that, having that really lovely intention, and just having my visualization strong enough and my energy low enough, so I'm not getting frustrated of like, come with me, and and trying to control the situation. So it's that combination. Yeah.
Wow. So, very amazing, really.
Have a good.
Okay, I'll be back in a few, and have a lovely meditation.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. Okay, so back to our breath again. Our breath is our friend, and it can really help us to bring ourselves into the moment. So taking a nice deep breath and allowing your belly to expand. And then a lovely exhale, and just letting go of any tension in your body. and putting your feet on the floor so that you're nice and grounded. And then being aware of the sounds around you. And while you're doing this, while you've got your attention on the sounds, also put your attention of your sight onto the table or the floor in front of you, and choose a little area to rest your eyes on. And just make that area as small as possible. Focus on a little weave of the carpet, or if you're outside and doing this, just choose a little blade of grass. If it's a wooden table, you're looking at the grain of the wood, which is what I'm looking at in front of me. It's a little tiny knot in the wood. So just really being aware of every little detail in that. I find that a really helpful way to still our thinking, by focusing my sight. And while we're focusing keeping our eyes absolutely still and our bodies absolutely still, then just bringing in our awareness of the sounds around us as well again. Being really aware and curious about the fact that when you get still and when your mind stops all of its mind chatter, you start becoming much more aware of the little sounds around you that you might not have noticed before. You're just allowing yourself to be a receptacle, or like a microphone receiver or something of that sound, and letting it come into you. If you're around a lot of noise, that's fine too, that's great, that's all in the present moment. That's really good. So just bringing our thinking down to a nice still level like that, that's a great way of bringing our thoughts down so that we're on the same wavelength as our animal friends. Animals are generally in this present moment the whole time. Unless they're triggered by a memory and they're scared, or generally they're in this present moment. And generally, actually, I started saying all because generally, even if they're scared, they could be reacting to something that you're scared about, or a feeling that's coming from inside you. So they generally will be reacting to something that's going on in this present moment, and picking up on your feeling state. So the stiller we can get ourselves, the stiller we can help our animal friends to be, and more peaceful. And so if you're bringing your thoughts down from this lots of thinking, your thinking level right down, and helping your animal friend to have their thinking levels also down in a nice, quiet, peaceful way, then you can be on a nice energetic connection, the same wavelength. And when you've got that connection, then the communication is a lot easier. So what I'd like to do is share with you a little animal communication exercise. So going back to stillness again, and I'll just go over this for a few more seconds so Frid can join us. But also this time just maneuvering yourself so that if your animal friend is in the room with you, maneuvering yourself so you're sitting, so they are in your peripheral vision. So if you could just turn, that would be brilliant, so that you can be aware of them. And then back to focusing on a little spot on the carpet or on a table or on a chair, but just somewhere sort of halfway between you and them so that they're still in your peripheral vision. And if they're moving around, then just shift yourself so that you can be aware of them. And just focusing your eyes, keeping your eyes as still as possible if they've settled down, so that you can be aware of them. And being aware of the sounds around you as well. And then putting your attention onto the animal that you are wanting to communicate with. And this can be, doesn't need to be your companion animal. You could do this when you're out for a walk with farmed animals or wild animals, birds. Stilling your thoughts and then putting your attention onto them. And just really being aware, in the same way that you were really aware of your own body, sitting on the chair and the sounds around you and everything, putting your 100% focus onto them and being really aware of them and their body. Before you even start trying to tune in energetically onto their thoughts and all of that sort of thing, just using this lovely stillness that you've created, in the same way that you were aware of more sounds around you when you got still. Be really curious about how much more aware you are of them. And are there little things that you notice about them when you're in this still space that you don't notice when your mind's racing and busy? So just scan them from the tip of their nose, up their head, to their ears, around their eyes, around their mouth, the muzzle, their jaw, and all around their neck. And you're looking for anything on the physical level of them. So their hair, is it dull? Is it shiny? What colour is it? There are lots of different colours there. If you needed to draw a little tiny area of them and really sort of make that into a great big picture, how many hairs, individual hairs, would you have to draw? And are they all the same colour, or are there lots of different shades? And then are there folds of their skin? Are there muscles that you can see? Are there bones that you can see? Notice the shapes around their limbs. Notice their breathing. If they're lying down, you can see their pads of their paws. What colours are they? Look at the texture of them. Can you see their claws? Have they got dew claws? Can you see their teeth? Are their eyes awake or closed? Open or closed? If they're open, are their eyes shiny or dull? Just really noticing everything that you can. If they're moving around, are they moving freely? Is there a restriction? Where do you think that's coming from if there's a restriction? Is there some bit of discomfort? Take your attention back to their breathing again and how comfortable they look to you. Do they feel settled and comfortable or agitated? So if they feel agitated, do they need to go out, or are they waiting for food, or any of those things? And if they are, or do they want to drink, or if they are and you want to go and attend to those things before you carry on the next step of doing this, then, you know, if you're watching this on a record, just press pause and do that. If you're doing this on your own, just make sure that all of those things that are attended to, so that, you know, if you suddenly realised, oh, they could be wanting this, then that would be a really good time to, because what you're doing is you're really paying attention. They will notice that attention really being put on them. They will feel that stillness and peacefulness in you, and they'll notice where your attention is. And then by picking up on things and acting on them, it's a really lovely way of regarding them and having them feel like you're really taking notice. And by responding to the very obvious day-to-day things that they might need, it gives them the confidence and trust in you that you are going to act on. If they're wanting to share something on a more feeling level, that you're actually going to take notice. So you need to really take notice of the very basic things to start with. And if there is suddenly a cut that you've not noticed before, or there's a muscle twitching or tightness or something that you've not noticed before, then attend to those before you start really trying to tune in on a much deeper energetic level. But if everything seems nice and peaceful and there's nothing to be particularly attending to, then you can put your attention on them and just asking them, is there anything you want to share with me? How are you feeling? And just really tuning in on a feeling level. So without trying to overthink this in your mind, just really trusting that once you've made this lovely connection and you've got very still, and they're really aware of your lovely quiet space, by just asking that, something might pop into your mind, or you might feel something in your body, which is what happens with me, and I think that's the most common way of picking up on feelings for people. Just noticing your body when you say how you're feeling to them, and seeing whether there's anything different that you notice about yourself. Is there a feeling that you suddenly feel that isn't very familiar to you? And just really exploring that. If it's a physical feeling that you're feeling, if suddenly you get some tightness or pain somewhere, just exploring that more, and just asking where that comes from, and is there anything that I can do to help you with that? So just exploring into those feelings. If you're feeling an overwhelming sadness or an overwhelming feeling of love or joy, really exploring into those different feelings and saying, what is it that's causing that? Even if it's a good feeling, like, what is it that's causing that? So I know I can give you more of it. If it's a feeling of sadness or frustration or a feeling like that, it's like, what can I do to help you release that and for that not to happen? So just in that very still space, really trusting our intuitive wisdom, that we can empathetically tune in and pick up on other beings' awareness around us. We're all capable of it. We all rely far too much on words rather than tuning in on an intuitive level. Just practicing with it is a really great way. And as soon as you pick up on something, no matter how silly it feels, if you act on it, and so if you suddenly feel like, I don't know what it might be, they really feeling really thirsty, suddenly your mouth goes dry and you're feeling really thirsty, get you a nice fresh bowl of water, and they drink a lot, then it that's a really nice affirmation, that actually that wasn't just your mind thinking, that's something that you picked up on. So if there are things that you pick up on a pain level, for example, I've got a bit of a pain in my stomach, and you put your hand there and just asking them if they want a warm hand on that, rather than going in there with a touch straight away, but just offering a warm hand. And if they just lean into you, then that's a really nice affirmation. They really feel comforted by that. It's a nice affirmation that actually, yes, they're actually really responding to that. And hopefully that will take the pain from you that you picked up as well. Just giving a nice deep breath and releasing and letting go of that. So this is very just a sort of quick overview on a bit of a 101 of animal communication, but just little tips to do to start off playing around with really tuning in our intuition and getting used to doing that. And I think one of the things that is very common to happen when we first start doing this is to question whether we're picking up anything and whether it's our imagination. And that is our mind kind of coming into play as soon as we do that. So as soon as you start doubting or questioning whatever, just go back to being mindful again. Go back to focusing on what you were looking at, keeping your eyes still and bringing in those sounds or the smells around you, whatever. So you're pressing pause in your mind and saying thank you very much, and just can go back to my feelings again now. So every time your mind you get mind chatter and this is silly, I can't do this. This is my intuition. This isn't my intuition. This is my imagination, rather. Then just pressing pause by using those mindful tips, and then going back to putting your attention back with the animal that you're wanting to pick up those feelings from again, and seeing whether the same thing comes back to you again. So I would suggest doing lots of little and often practices with it is a really nice way to practice, actually, rather than trying to do a big long session in one go. Always using the mindfulness to start with to bring your energy levels down and stillness down. So yeah, how did that feel? And they used to join us without the preparation of really being still, and you'd been rushing around and stuff, but how was that for you, just that little taster there, Frid?
It's lovely. There are two things. Rudy, I think, is getting bored, and I think he would like to go downstairs and explore the yard a little bit. And
Yes.
he was he was cute. I mean, he was wandering around, he had to pee, and when I brought him in, he actually fell. So that was bad. Yeah, I felt really bad about that.
You okay?
Yeah, he's okay. And then he ate a little bit while I started the meditation, and he drank a little bit, and then he came and wanted a quick little cuddle. And now he's panting, and I think he would like me to go downstairs. He likes me to fry some vegan chicken up for him. Or sometimes, he likes different things. We just discovered these broccoli burgers that he's really keen on. So I'm going to try to find those again, but I don't have them anymore. So today he's going to get some vegan chicken. And he, I know they say salt is bad for dogs, but he really likes tamari sauce on it.
Oh, okay.
And I figured since he's so old, we'll forget what the doctor says and we'll just put tamari sauce on it. How do you feel about that? I think when you're 16, you're a shepherd mix and you're 16.
I think, yeah, there's a time and a place for everything, isn't there?
Yeah, I think he can get the tamari.
It's all about that balance again, isn't it?
Yeah. But I don't have any potatoes. He likes the fried potatoes, but I don't have those today, so I'll have to buy some tomorrow. Yeah, that's how it goes. And what is interesting, and maybe it's too long for tonight, but what I struggle with when I observe him, I mean, he's so old, and then I do pick up some stuff from him, but not as detailed as you say that, as you described. But I get, I have a lot of mind chatter, like, oh, he's so old, and I wonder whether I should do more of this and do more of that. I mean, these guilty feelings and ideas of what I could be doing or should be doing crowd out some of the presence. So that's something to struggle with.
Yeah. So as soon as you find yourself going into mind chatter, being aware that he will pick up on that. He'll be picking up on those thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it does make it easier.
Being as clearer a channel as possible. So just taking yourself back to, I mean, when I first started doing this, I literally had to keep taking myself back to mindfulness every few seconds because I just doubted myself and my abilities so much.
Yeah, but it's the old junk, and I guess taking out the old junk before you ever approach the animal.
But but also keep going back to using mindfulness. Keep going back to your stillness, focusing on that bit of wood in front of you, or bit of carpet in front of you, or whatever, and just keeping your eyes still. So practicing the mindfulness a lot more than you're practicing the animal communication will help you just get into that very still space. So keep taking yourself back to that stillness.
Yeah, and I mean, with the coronavirus crisis going on, I know that this is the thing to do, but it's my weak spot. I mean, it's my weakness. So yeah, it's time. I mean, Rudolph and the coronavirus crisis tell me that it's time to up my game.
Just enjoying that space with him.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as they start responding, it's like it becomes addictive for them, because you realize they've got it. They're enjoying that peacefulness. They're enjoying us being free of mind chatter, even if it's just for a few moments. And then it's just such a lovely thing to share with them, because they are always filtering out our just to make their world kind of safe, and so they know what's going on, whether you're feeling anxious, whether you're feeling upset, whether you're feeling you're busy rushing around, or whether you're feeling happy or peaceful or whatever. So they're always on filtering out, and the more people that we have in our household, the more they're having to filter out. So the more we can just give them a bit of company, but not thinking, is something that I haven't met an animal yet who hasn't absolutely responded to it and really enjoyed it. So it's just and not trying to think, oh, I'm not doing it strong enough, I'm not doing it well enough. Actually, if you think that you probably are, you're it's over worrying about it. Actually just doing little and often is absolutely fine. It doesn't need to be perfect, and it just
It doesn't need to be perfect. Really, nothing ever does, right?
No, exactly, exactly. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to leave you to go and give your boys some nice treats and some whatever, tamari and yumminess and
Tamari chicken. I feel like that he has become very picky.
good. Excellent.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for.
I think he's entitled to it, his grand old age. Oh, lots of love to you both.
Thank you, thank you. So I will stop the recording first. Bye-bye and thank you again. We'll see you next week, right? We'll see you.
Great. Lovely.
So stop the recording.